You're listening to SHADOWGATE by Brian Weimer, an Advent story. Narrated by Scott Shores. SHADOWGATE. Dark, brooding clouds hovered above the remote European mountain range like a predator waiting to devour its prey. 28-year-old American scientist Elliot Foster gazed out at the ominous sky, crowning the jagged, icy landscape from the elevated view of the helicopter as it traveled. He could almost feel the bone-chilling, frigid temperatures through the polycarbonate window next to him. Elliot was uncertain exactly where he was being flown to and wondered how much longer it would take to get there, resisting the urge of asking the pilot and sounding like an impatient child. Instead, he opted to quietly wait. As the chopper continued over the mountains, Elliot wondered if he had made the right decision in accepting the offer to assist the international scientific group. Regardless of everything he had been told about the research project, many questions remained. Questions that multiple phone conversations had not been able to clearly answer. Subatomic particles, dark matter, quantum physics, antimatter. These were a few of the words used to capture Elliot's interest upon his initial conversation with the Russian scientist who had contacted him. "Would you like to come and help us unlock the secrets of the universe?" the man had asked Elliot before making an offer he found difficult to turn down. Despite having all expenses paid, as well as a large monetary payment exceeding Elliot's yearly salary, the travel distance still made him hesitant to accept. Even now, en route to the project location, he remained doubtful. The last thing Elliot wanted was to be away from his wife and their Baltimore home for a month, despite the fact they had agreed upon it together and she had given him her full support. The young couple weren't hurting for money, but it still seemed foolish to turn down such a lucrative offer. Elliot's suitcase lay behind his seat, filled to maximum capacity for the one-month venture. He had also been encouraged to bring his scientific research. As such, Elliot's expensive new laptop computer also sat nearby. He was prepared to guard it with his life, if necessary. More uncertainty plagued the young scientist as he traveled to the apparent outskirts of human civilization on another continent. That, along with the confidentiality agreement he had been required to sign. Elliot didn't have a problem keeping secrets, scientific or otherwise. A devout Freemason and a member of a prominent secret society in college, his allegiance to such brotherhoods had opened a number of professional doors for him. The Russian scientist claimed it was his theoretical article on particle physics published in a popular science magazine that served as the reason for the offer. But Elliot couldn't help but wonder if it could also have been due to the fact that he had graduated high school at 14 and college at 17, obtaining degrees in both biochemistry and physics. Then again, it could have been because he was the son of a CEO for a prominent U.S. pharmaceutical company. Or maybe all of these factors combined. Elliot scratched his clean-shaven face. After awakening at 5:30 a.m. that morning, he had barely enough time to shower, get dressed, and grab a quick breakfast at the hotel before being picked up and taken to the departure site. Elliot thought of his wife, glancing down and touching the gold wedding band on his right hand. "You're married," Dr. Alexander Nowak, a Polish scientist, said with a heavy accent, sitting a few feet away. "Me too. Do you have any children?" "No," Elliot replied, speaking over the sound of the rotating blades. "You?" Alexander, appearing to be at least 10 years his senior, nodded. "Yes, 2 boys, 7 and 12. Elliot retrieved his wallet from one back pocket and unfolded it to show the man a photograph of a beautiful woman with long blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. "This is my wife, McKenna. We've only been married for a year, but we plan to have kids one day." "I'm certain you will. You're both young. You'll have plenty of time." Elliot nodded. Alexander leaned in as if to tell him a secret. "So, how much did they offer you?" "What?" "Money." Elliot scratched his head. "I don't think it's a good idea to, talk about it." "I'm only joking," the scientist replied, nudging him in the ribs with one elbow and erupting into a hearty laugh. Elliot forced a smile in response. "What's your field?" Alexander asked. "Quantum physics. I work for the Department of Energy in Maryland, but I'm also in the process of getting my doctorate. You?" "I'm a researcher for a laboratory in Poland." "Sounds exciting." Alexander shrugged. "It's all right. I'm wanting to know if this is any different than the internship I did at CERN several years ago." "CERN?" Elliot repeated, making certain he had heard correctly. No kidding.
It is the truth. I would not lie to you. The experience was life-changing.
I'm sure. If this goes well, maybe you can put in a good word for me.
Of course,
Alexander replied. Before Elliot could say anything else, he felt the helicopter descend. He looked out the window as the aircraft set down on a paved clearing in the midst of surrounding mountains. Elliot saw a gate and a road leading off from the location. The helmeted pilot turned and looked at the scientists.
"We've arrived," he announced. "Be careful getting out and be sure to take all of your belongings."
"Thank you," Alexander responded. The pair grabbed their suitcases and stepped out onto the pavement. Two men ran to meet them outside the chopper, both wearing thick, hooded jackets and gloves. The larger of the two took the luggage from the scientists, while the other waved to the pilot, who reciprocated through the window. The men kept their heads low as they moved away from the chopper. Moments later, the mechanical bird ascended and flew off over the mountains.
"Doctors Foster and Nowak,"
the man, appearing to be in his mid-50s with a thick, graying mustache, greeted them in a heavy Russian accent and shook their hands.
"It's fantastic both of you are here. I'm Dmitry Kozlov, the scientist leading the project."
"Nice to meet you in person," Elliot responded.
"You as well. Thank you for deciding to come all this way to assist us."
"I'm honored you asked me, although I'm still unsure why, considering all the other scientists out there you could have asked."
"None of the other scientists wrote the thought-provoking article on particle physics," Dr. Kozlov responded. "How many work at this location?" Alexander asked.
"That depends on the time of year," Dr. Kozlov replied as they approached a large, gated entrance on the side of the mountain.
"My team have 8 people, 2 positions of which have been revolving. That's why both of you are here."
A hydraulic noise was heard as the heavily reinforced door opened.
"This way, please," Dr. Kozlov said.
Elliot and Alexander followed him into a dark, expansive tunnel, large enough to drive a truck through. The man carrying their suitcases quietly followed behind them. A pair of armed guards stood to either side of the entrance as the thick steel doors closed with a loud noise that echoed through the tunnel.
"The elevator is just up ahead," Dr. Kozlov told them.
"How big is this place?" Elliot asked.
"The laboratory is located several levels beneath us. There are also living facilities where you'll be staying. They're complete with kitchens, saunas, exercise, and entertainment areas. It gives the Hilton a run for its money," Dr. Kozlov said with a chuckle. "Eh?"
"It certainly sounds like it," Elliot commented.
"This facility must have taken years to build," Alexander suggested. "Yes, but it was originally a large cavern," Dr. Kozlov explained. "We merely expanded it."
Elliot looked up at the ceiling. "Why did they decide on a facility at this location, out here in the mountains?"
"For a number of reasons. It's believed this place is unique in nature. If you know anything about earth energies and chakras. Are you familiar with these things?"
"Sure," Elliot replied, hoping to sound convincing.
"Here we are," Dr. Kozlov said, motioning to the left.
He led the men over and a door slid open.
"After you."
Elliot and Alexander stepped into the elevator, followed by Dr. Kozlov and his assistant. Once inside, the head scientist pressed a button and the elevator began to lower. As it slowly transported the men underground, Elliot was reminded of his distaste for elevators. He watched the light move on the console, feeling as though he were descending into the bowels of the earth.